Hello there, Dave here, and the Pathologic 3 Quarantine demo is here. And as a lifelong Pathologic fan, as of about 6 months ago, I'm here to give some quick impressions about the demo and what's new. The Pathologic 3 Quarantine demo is a prologue for the upcoming Pathologic 3, placing you in the shoes of a character from the original Pathologic, Daniil Dankovsky, aka The Bachelor, as he recounts the events of 12 days spent in a steppe town ravaged by a mysterious plague called the Sand Pest. Dankovsky's life's work in the city, researching how to defeat death, is in jeopardy if he cannot explain his failures, and he has investigators beating down the door of his lab when the demo begins. In Pathologic 3, you'll be tasked with reliving the time spent on the steppe and making better choices this time around to hopefully come out with a better outcome. Now, instead of walking through how Pathologic works, I thought I'd focus this video on what's new in Pathologic 3 and specifically what's introduced in the demo, from the perspective of somebody like me who's only played Pathologic 2. And hey, if you like Pathologic 2, I did a deep dive podcast about it. There's a link down in the description, and that was about a 3-hour deep dive discussion about that game. In this video, I'm going to discuss 3 things that I picked out from the demo, 3 new things. Those things are the nonlinear structure, the new survival systems, and the new medical diagnosis and treatment system. And obviously this is just the prologue, and the game is still in development, so these may not be reflective of how things work precisely in the final game, or even as the game proceeds and systems evolve. With that being said, off we go. The first thing to note that's new in Pathologic 3 is a nonlinear structure. Now, lots of games say they have a nonlinear structure, and lots of games do, but how many of those games actually let you pick what order you want to play through the events of the story? If you're at all familiar with Pathologic, you know that the plague, the Sand Pest, is swept into the town and is killing everybody around. Now in Pathologic 2, the goal was to survive a certain number of days to see the ending. Pathologic 3 begins kind of the same way that 2 did, in a, quote, failed run of the game, with Dankovsky being interrogated about what happened out there. But instead, in Pathologic 3, instead of putting you back on day 1 and asking you to just survive long enough to reach the end of the game, Pathologic 3 makes you move from day to day to day, any day that you want, given you have enough of a time-traveling resource, and try again, make different decisions, maybe save different people. There's a decree system where you can issue decrees for how the town should allocate its resources to fight the plague and quell unrest and things like that. So you'll move from day to day to day, making different decisions with the goal of kind of extending the lifespan of the town and prolonging the survival, we'll say. The developers noted that this was a way for them to kind of build save scumming into the game, rather than, if you make a bad decision, you'd be incentivized to just load a previous save and try again. With this system, if you fuck up on day 3, just load day 3 again and try day 3 again, try to do better on that day. So on paper, the goal is the same: to reach the end of the story, survive long enough, keep enough people in the town alive long enough to, I guess, allow the Bachelor's research to continue back in the city. But the way that you're going to do that, by time traveling around, hopping around, changing decrees, trying to save different people, seems like it will be a very different rhythm from Pathologic 2. Oh, and all the while, Daniil is still obsessed with his life's work of trying to defeat death. He's not going to stop researching and exploring that while on the steppe. So will this play into things in the town as death surrounds you in the town as people are dying from this plague? Find out next week on Dragon Ball Z. The next thing to note about Pathologic 3 and how things are new is how the survival systems have been turned on their head. Gone are the punishing yet familiar survival systems from Pathologic 2, like hunger, thirst, exhaustion, stamina, meters that you need to manage and, maybe not stay topped up. This is Pathologic after all. But instead of having those familiar survival mechanics, we now have a spectrum of apathy to mania. And you can see this spectrum, this bar, at the top of the screen in the UI. And this reflects the Bachelor's mental state. Apathy is on the left, mania is on the right, and your position on that spectrum is always moving. Slowly over time, you'll move towards apathy from what I can tell in the demo. Generally, I think that shows a bit of characterization for the Bachelor's mental state without any outside influence, we'll say, sliding towards apathy. And dear God, don't let it get to max apathy. I won't show you what happens in this video, but if you want to see for yourself, see for yourself. But yeah, it's something. So the way you can manipulate your position on this spectrum is you can take medicine that will give you, quote, apathy points or mania points. It will move you over there. There are also some things that you can do in the environment, like standing next to a trash can fire increases your mania, and as does something that you do with the dumpsters around town. It sure seems like he's smashing his head in the lid, but in any case, that raises your mania a little bit. And your position on the spectrum will have an impact on how you move around the environment. So at high apathy, you move really slowly and you can't run. At high mania, you can run really fucking fast, like comically fast, but your health will drain at the same time. So you may think, well, I'll just stay in, apathy or in kind of that neutral zone in the middle of the spectrum. But as always, as in Pathologic 2, time is money, time is precious, so you may need to get somewhere quickly, and there are dangerous zones in the town, and as in Pathologic 2, it seems like fighting is not going to be a great way to go about things. So if there are thugs chasing you around the town, you might want to be in high mania so you can just sprint past them. Also, love to see that at least in the demo here, they have reused the character models and the voice lines for those street thugs. And the "come over here." Come over here. I laughed when that popped up in the demo. I hope they keep that. I hope they never change that. If Pathologic 10 comes out in 35 years, I want to hear, "come over here." Come over here. So, with regards to survival systems, it seems like, just as in the previous games, you'll always be trying to manage what mental state Daniil is in, as opposed to trying to manage what physical state that the Haruspex was in Pathologic 2. It seems like managing the meter and the attention that it will take from you as the player will be the same. It just changes how you interact with that, how you think about manipulating that meter and managing what state that you're in. And in this case, different states will have different advantages and disadvantages, whereas in Pathologic 2, there's no real advantage to being at high hunger, So, this seems like it will play into gameplay strategy a little bit more than just, I'm hungry, I need to find some bread, as Pathologic 2 was. Not to say that finding bread was simple, but I'm really interested to see how this will play out long term as you are hopping around and trying to seemingly make efficient runs through the days. Finally, the last thing that I wanted to highlight in this video is the new medical examination and diagnosis system. Pathologic 2 also placed you in the role of a doctor. The Haruspex was the town surgeon after his father was killed. He became the de facto town surgeon. But the act of seeing patients and diagnosing them was more of a trial and error process of testing medications and seeing their reaction. Basically, how much did this medicine hurt the patient? And Pathologic 3 seems like it will use a more, quote, modern idea of medical practice, as the Bachelor is a big city doctor coming to the small town, bringing outside, more, again, quote, modern medicine to the cultural traditions of the town on the steppe. So the way that this works, and I thought this was kind of cool, is you have to interview patients about what's going on, talk to them about their symptoms, talk to them about their lifestyle, their habits, etc., and then examine their bodies. So you'll get to look at their arms, you'll get to look at their chest, look at their legs, their back, etc., and mark symptoms in your notebook. And you'll use the old Gregory House differential diagnosis. Note, lupus is not one of the possible diagnoses on this list of possible afflictions. One nitpick about this system, or at least the way that it presents in the prologue here, you will examine the patients, and then as soon as you say look at the backs of their arms, if there's something notable there, the Bachelor will immediately remark, oh, a rash, and rash will be automatically ticked off on your page of symptoms. I wish that they would remove that automatic step and make me think, oh, a rash, let me go in there. I will choose rash rather than redness or insect bites or other things that may afflict the skin, and put a little bit more of that onus on me to make that connection between what I see and what the symptom actually is, rather than just going through all the different body parts. And, you probably could just speed through this. Arms, legs, back of legs, chest, back. Okay, we got all the symptoms. I would like to be forced to pay closer attention. That being said, even with all the help in the demo, I did misdiagnose a patient and got scolded for it. And, the Bachelor probably is a better doctor than me, all things being said, so it may end up being a good thing that they don't put that onus on you as the player to make the right identification of symptoms, but I did find that seemed kind of unpathologic, a little bit easy. It might be necessary, though. We'll see how it plays out. Now, the diagnosis does not stop just because you talk to the patient, because, hey, patients lie and patients leave information out. And hey, the physical symptoms on their body, that might not be all the information that you need. So you can go to the patient's home and look for more clues. Again, really feels like they took diagnosis from Dr. House snooping around in a patient's house after hours. But you can go to their house and you may find out that, oh, the patient's been lying about something. Maybe the patient says that they don't drink, but you suspect that they've been drinking. You can go to their house and look for evidence that they've been drinking. Going to their house, you will get a kind of idea of how this person lives, which I think will be cool to ground you in the conditions that the people in the town are living in, more so than Pathologic 2, where most of the time I spent inside buildings in Pathologic 2 was for looting. I didn't really want to talk to anybody in there unless it was story relevant, because I'm trying to bust into your cabinets. I don't really want to talk to you as you watch me break into your cabinets. In Pathologic 3, you may need to talk to a neighbor. You may need to talk to somebody else that this patient lives with. And I think that will really ground us in who these people are, how do they live, which will give us a greater picture of the town and the setting, which is one of the best parts about these games, is the setting and these characters and how everybody lives. So I like this medical diagnosis system that's introduced in this demo. I like it a lot. I wonder, how is this going to clash with Pathologic's harsh survival and time management setup? I think that some of the pressure will be taken off because you can redo days, but in Pathologic 2, I thought it was very thematically important that you had these doctor systems, treatment systems to try to help people, but I couldn't really do it because I was focused on keeping myself alive. That felt very thematically relevant to me, to play a doctor who needs to make selfish decisions to keep themselves alive first and foremost, when you have all these people that are suffering around you as well. I wonder if that's going to happen in Pathologic 3. I wonder if the Bachelor cares about the fate of the townsfolk. Seems like he may care a little bit less than the Haruspecs did. So, will I actually have time to engage with this in Pathologic 3? Will it be required in order to make progress, satisfactory progress, whatever that looks like in this game? There's a lot of unanswered questions and a lot of really interesting things to look forward to once the full game arrives. And we still don't have a release date for when Pathologic 3 will arrive. The planned release date is in 2025, so you can wishlist it on Steam and be notified when it's ready. And you will surely hear from me if you follow me on social media. When Pathologic 3 gets a release date, you will find me freaking out. So thanks for watching. If you made it all the way to the end, thank you very much. Please consider hitting like on this video, leaving a comment. Tell me, what are you most excited about in Pathologic 3? How do you think these new systems are going to work? Because it does feel like it's going to end up being a very different experience from Pathologic 2. Let me know down in the comments. Feel free to check out other videos on the channel, including deep dive podcasts and much more. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.